Greetings, 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 greetings. I am King Clifford Jefferson, of Senator Godfrey, the fifth kind of man Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem, the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which we know as Jesus Christ, or the Vicar of Christ, or Melchizedek, or better known as the King of Righteousness. It is March 13th, 2025, which is equivalent to the Berber year 2975. I greet you in the name of our forefathers. I greet you in the name of our foremothers. I greet you in the name of our ancestors. I greet you in the name of our successors, as well as our predecessors, as well as our family members. I greet you in the name of all those who are striving to get an understanding of what it is that we are called to do here at the Third Temple English Church of England. I want to give special honor to all those who are having a hard time right now. These are the brothers and sisters, the families who are struggling, homeless, all right, on drugs, uh, that are alone, feel like they have been, forgotten, all right? This is for you, all right? Let you know that you are the children of God, that you are the children of the Messiah, which we know as King Edgar the Peaceful. And your books are written in what we call the Book of Life. This will be tailored for this lesson today in regards to understanding Mary Magdalene. Okay? Mary Magdalene, a very important figure in the history in regards to Christianity, those who follow Christ, those who are the anointed, those who have the ability to follow the Messiah when he returns. Okay? It's very important to understand that Mary Magdalene was in fact a Berber of the Benedictine order in France. Okay? Whatever order it was called, it originated from the Benedictine order that originated from the earliest form of the Benedictine order that started from the English Reformation that happened in the 10th century under Jesus Christ, King Edgar the Peaceful, called the English Benedictine Reform. Once again, the English Benedictine Reform. We're going to be discussing a lot of things today. So if you haven't watched this channel or you're new to this channel, you need to go back and review the prior lessons that were done to get a better understanding of what it is that I present in regards to identifying yourself in regards to the royal family of that person known as Jesus Christ. Okay, known by many names and many cultures. Okay, but this concerns his progeny. Okay, this concerns his bloodline. This concerns his descendants. All right, not coming from some abstract religious theocracy. Okay, this is from historical facts. Okay, historical records from historical people that are the descendants of the Anglo-Saxon Berbers. So if there are any questions, please post them in the chat. Like, share, subscribe, as well as donate free and common sockets to $ Clifford Jefferson L or the Third Temple English Church of England. Okay, all free and common sockets is welcome. This is going to be a beautiful lesson. I tell it just right, but you have to listen. Greetings, brother tribe ties or sister tribe ties. I would like to know your name if it's possible, so that I be able to communicate with you properly. Tribal ties is not a proper uh, name to be able to correspond with you. If you don't mind, the one who is watching now, going by the name of tribe ties, could you please put your name in there, your last name, your family name? All right. Greetings, Brother McGarrett from the House of McGarrett. Glad you were able to join me today. I have a beautiful lesson prepared to you as always. Okay. Give me 1 second. Greetings to you all that just logged on. Brother Law, as well as Tribe Ties. Could I get your last name, your surname, so I may be able to communicate with you here on this live? Once again, Brother McGarrow, I have his name. My name is known. Please present your surname, okay? So I may be able to communicate with you as far as through your descent name, okay? I really would appreciate it if you can be able to succumb to that by giving me your surname. If you don't feel like it, that's fine. Greetings, Brother Jewel. Glad to have you back. Yes, Jewel from the House of Jewel. Yes, greetings. Brother Tribe, I'm waiting for you. Or Sister Tribe. If you're from a tribe, then uh, we need to know what tribe you're from. And that surname determines what tribe you originated from. Greetings from the House of Warner. Is that you? From the tribe Todd, is that you? From Tribe Tide, is this from are you the one from the House of Warner? Or this is somebody new? Is the individual from the House of Warner the same individual from Tribe Ties, or is that somebody new that's on the channel? Okay, so you're new. Welcome. Welcome, Brother Warner from the House of Warner. Glad you were able to join. I'm gonna give the people a couple of more seconds to get on. Brother Ty, Tribe Ty, I'm still waiting on your surname. If you don't mind, I really would appreciate it. Sorry about that. Okay, brother Tribe Ties or Sister Tribe Ties, that's fine. You can even give me your first name. Is that feasible for you? All right. Nonetheless, let's get started with this beautiful lesson. Okay, everybody has to pay attention. Please pay attention to the record. Okay, it's very important. First, I'm going to show a video as a syllabus, as I always do. I always show something to correspond to what it is that I'm speaking on. Okay, from those who claim they know what it is that they're talking about. I always say, he who writes your book sets your timeline. Time never was when we as a people was not. The life of time when we as a people begin, the time will come when we as a people will be no more. Okay? And this goes always back to Adam and Eve, as well as the stories leading up to Mary, Mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, etc. Okay? Not just from an abstract the 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 theocracy, all right, from that particular standpoint, but from a concrete historical standpoint, this is how we need to qualify this story, and this is how I'm going to give it to you today. All right, as you see behind me, this is a skull of the individual, the entity known as Mary Magdalene, that was actually found in Constantinople, but it now resides in what we call France. Okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the history surrounding this relic. We're going to talk about the history surrounding um, uh, the time era where the relic occurred, as well as who preserved it, where it's stored at. We're going to talk about uh, um, the um, the time of the preservation and what was going on as a result of this relic. Okay, so we got a lot to cover today. So please uh, be humble as well as please put on your thinking cap. All right, because it's about to get real gritty in here. All right, so let's get it on. Let's go to the video. If you can hear this video, please give me a thumbs up in the chat. If you can hear this video, please let me know in the chat.
Today, our adventure takes us to Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside,
Bear with me, we got some delay.
Illinois. We've been here before. This is an archdiocese cemetery, the Catholics. Very large cemetery. And as you come in and you go to the right, there in the corner is the main community mausoleum. Very majestic structure. And it is very, very large. Now, as I came into the main entrance,
just going to speed this up some.
Left to the right, the main corridors. If you take those Saint Bernadette fabric or something, I can't.
Right here.
close, you see what looks like, I'm going to say, some type of relic within some type of, maybe it's fabric or something. I can't really tell. I mean, they're very, very tiny. But a little background that I found very interesting on Mary Magdalene. What's most interesting, I find, about the relics of Mary Magdalene is that there's some big pieces left and they are on display. And most notably, it is her skull. They say it's her skull, the blackened skull. If you go back when they had exhumed her, if you will, or they found her, her remains were found intact, except they say for her jawbone. And when they opened up her tomb in the dust, there was a wooden tablet wrapped in wax. And when they opened it up, they saw it said the words, "Here lies the body of Mary Magdalene." So presumably it was her. Now, also found in the tomb was a sphere, a glass sphere that was containing, as they said, earth soaked with blood of Jesus Christ, which was collected by Mary Magdalene at the foot of the cross. I find that amazing. Amazing if that's true. Can you imagine if you were looking at that? The skull of Mary Magdalene rests most of the year these days in a crypt in a massive Gothic basilica, a basilica that was constructed back in 1295 under Charles II, King of Naples, Count of Provence, and nephew of St. Louis, King of France. And it was on this ground that Mary Magdalene's body was buried by her good friend Maximin, who was the first bishop, and later hidden for centuries, only to be rediscovered on December 10th, 1279, during excavations ordered by Charles II himself. Now, when the tomb was first opened in 1279, it was said there was a wonderful smell of perfume that filled the air. And most interestingly to me, and many others, of course, is there was listen to this, there was a small piece of skin attached to her skull in the spot where Jesus had touched her after his resurrection. The bishops who witnessed the excavation realized was through the miracle of Jesus' touch, the skin was still alive. Those in charge of the relics carefully sealed this skin in a glass vase, and you can see it today. The skull of Mary Magdalene was analyzed in 1974 and has remained sealed inside a glass case since then. Analysis of the skull and photographs of hair found on it indicate that it belonged to a woman who was around 50 years old and of Mediterranean descent rather than French descent, as it was originally thought. Now, since then, however, the Catholic Church has not allowed.
Now that's very important. They said she was rather of Mediterranean versus French descent. What we don't realize is that there was some connection to the Mediterranean and the Iberian Peninsula. When you go back to the conquest of the Iberian and the conquest of the Maghreb by the Arabs, okay? Because this story concerns the Franco and Spanish wars, okay? The Franco and Spanish wars when we're going to talk about today. All right, which also encompasses the Kingdom of England because you had the what we call the Anglo and Dutch wars. You had the Anglo and Spanish wars. You had the Anglo and French wars. Okay, you had the Anglo and Spanish wars. But when you go back in line, you must start from this present time, which would be what we call United States and Great Britain, which is called the United Kingdom. They had alliances. Before that, you had what they call the what was it UK and what we call Netherlands. Okay, the United States and UK alliance goes back to 1776. New Jersey's Constitution, Article 22 and Article 23, talks about Great Britain. Great Britain didn't come to the unification of 1707 Prior to that, it was separate rims, okay, under separate government, all right, back going all the way before 1603, okay, because we have to understand the timeline. So you got United States and UK relations, which will be what we call the Kingdom of Great Britain. Prior to that was called Great Britain, all right. Then you have what they call the UK and Netherlands, okay, alliances. This goes back into the Anglo and Dutch War because Netherlands represents the Dutch and Anglo represents the United Kingdom, okay, and though they goes back to what we call 1453. That is where your original trade wars go back to. Okay, before you had the UK and Netherlands wars, you got to go back to what we call the Habsburg and Netherlands alliances. Okay, that's the Spanish and the Dutch alliances. Okay, we're going to talk about that today briefly. Okay, all this is important. All this is very important. All right, so let's get back with the video.
Of any portion of the skull for dating, of course, we think, wow, carbon dating, right? Carbon dated back to what, the year zero or the year 50? It's kind of sad that they don't do that, and they're probably afraid that it might be, well, it might be a different date, and that would kind of ruin it all, wouldn't it? But anyway, the year of the woman's death has not been determined as of 2022, so it's going to remain a mystery, and many will believe and many will not. I thought it was interesting, and I hope you enjoyed this short little snippet on some history.
All right. So this concerns this relic of Mary Magdalene. Once again, everyone needs to note that the relic of Saint Mary Magdalene. Okay, this is very, very, very important. All right, this is from the University of Chicago Press Journal. All right, the Hebrew Israelites can't explain this. The Moors cannot explain this. The Jews cannot explain this. No person on earth is going to be able to explain the origin of the progeny of the bloodline of Jesus Christ. Okay? No one, all right, but me. And I'm going to prove it today. So if you don't believe that I am the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, which is the vicar of Christ, which we know as Melchizedek, King of Righteousness, or the King of Peace, all right, according to Pax Britannia, because Pax means peace, then hey, you don't recognize the Messiah. It says many will you say he will come to the people, but people will recognize him not. All right. This is the concrete story versus the abstract story that was told by the so-called um, uh, monarch of the United Kingdom called Great Britain or the Kingdom of Great Britain that originated through what we call the Second Hundred Year Wars. Okay, the Second Hundred Year Wars. All right. We talked about the alliances. Then you got to understand about the wars. You had the first hundred year war, was between the Plantagenet kings, all right, and the Capetine dynasty. Then you had the Hundred-Year Wars, which was called the Wars of the Edwardians, the Caroline Wars, and the Lancaster Wars. So you had the first Hundred-Year War, which is in 1159, dealing with the Plantagenet dynasty and the Capetine dynasty, which was resulted in the Treaty of Paris in 1259. Okay, Treaty of Paris of 1259. Then you had the Hundred-Year Wars. Okay, that consists of what we call the Edwardian Wars. All right, then the Caroline Wars, and then what they call the Lancaster Wars. This resulted from the Angevin branches of the Plantagenet crown that was started by Godfrey the Fifth Count of Anjou, son of Philip, the ruler of Jerusalem. Okay, as a result of that, you had to take over by the House of Tudors, which resulted from Henry VII, Henry VIII, and Elizabeth, or what we call the first. Henry VIII wife was Catherine of Aragon, who was the daughter of Isabella of Castile. And Isabella of Castile goes back to the Spanish conquest of 1492. This is what we call the Spanish Empire, okay, which consists of Spanish, French alliances that are influenced by Roman Catholics, okay, all regarding to the origin of Mary Magdalene and the cult of Mary Magdalene, which originated in the on the Iberian Peninsula. This is what you call your Sephardic Jews, okay, your Sephardic Jews. The Sephardic Jews are the Iberian Jews, okay. Very, very important. So this is from the University of Chicago Press Journal. Okay. Concrete sources. Okay. I will not go to the Bible here today, brothers and sisters. Now, this is considered abstract because those who write the story set the timeline. Those who even talk about that don't understand the true timeline because it was not meant for them to understand that. They're just recording what it is that they researched themselves. All right. And we're going to see it based upon my interpretation. Okay. Based upon my interpretation. The cult of Mary Magdalene came relatively late to northwest Iberia. After having been dispersed through the rest of continental Europe in the early Middle Ages. So Mary Magdalene is living in the early Middle Ages. The earliest evidence for the cult comes from the kingdom of Leon, Castile, and Galicia. In the second half of the 11th, did you hear that? Of the 11th century, during the reign of Alfonso VI, from 1065 to 1109. His promotion of the Gregorian reform opened up Iberia to the rest of the continent. The arrival of more complex liturgical sensibility led to the restructuring of pre-Romanesque architectural spaces through the uses of iconography and powerful visual dialectics unprecedented in local cultures. This article considers the staggering of the figure of Mary Magdalene and Leon, Castile, and Galicia as some of the most important architectural landmarks that have survived to this day, from Santiago de Compostela to Silos. Okay? Very important to understand what was just said in regard to the origin of the relic, what we call the blackened skull of Mary Magdalene. Okay? All right, and as well as her coat of Mary Magdalene, on the Iberian Peninsula. All right, under the jurisdiction of what we call before the invasion of the Iberian Peninsula by Arabs. Okay, it was under the control of those Hispanio Visigoths. All right, the Hispanio Visigoths. All right, we're going to go through all that today. All right. So if you don't know history, you're pretty much lost. Let's get on with it. Magdalene. These aren't French letters, these are English letters. Magdalene history, family crest, and coats of arms. Because she had a surname. We're talking about the bloodline. We're talking about the progenitor, okay, of the bloodline concerning the history of this individual called Jesus Christ, okay, which was just a title. That wasn't his descent name, okay, all right, as well as his mother, the Virgin Mary, okay. That wasn't her name, that just was a title, okay. So it says the surname Magdalene was first found in Burgundy, French Burgundy, an administrative and historical region of East Central France, where they celebrated the family held a family seat from ancient times. This is from Family Crest and Coats of Arms, dealing with the surname Magdalene. Okay, it was first found in Burgundy. Okay, Burgundy was a part of the Spanish Empire. That's very important for you to understand that, because that denotes to territory that extends here in North America under what they call New Spain. We had New France and New Spain. This denotes to what we call the Franco-Spanish Wars. The Franco-Spanish Wars, which also goes into the coat of what we call Mary Magdalene, as well as to the relic of Mary Magdalene, okay, concerning the those who were in charge of the uh, legacy or the legend concerning Mary Magdalene. And this will be what we call the Dominican order, okay? The Dominican order, okay? We must understand this. The Spanish Empire, sometimes referred to the Hispanic monarchy or the Catholic monarchy, was a colonial empire that existed between 1492 and 1976. So this is the age of discovery here in North America by Roman Catholics under Isabella of Castile and Bernadette II of Aragon. Okay? We must understand that. And this history goes all the way back to the siege of the Gibraltar. Gibraltar goes back to the siege of the Iberian Peninsula by the Arabs. Okay, there were many controversies involving the territory known as Gibraltar. Okay, all right, but we're not we're talking about a specific time. Okay, as we can see, the membership of the Spanish Empire. Give me a second. Okay, Transamora, Habsburg, Capetine dynasty, Bourbons, House of Valios and Burgundy. This is where the name um, Magdalene comes from. Burgundy. Okay? The area called Burgundy consists of those people living in tribes that were composed of houses called the House of Valios and Burgundy, which is descended from the Capetine dynasty. All right? Very important. All right? Right here. So we're not just talking about the territory called Burgundy, where that surname Magdalene comes from, which is in France, but we're also talking about the people who bear the surname and what houses they were affiliated with. And it says that she was affiliated with the Burgundy house. All right, that's going to be important as we go on. The House of Valios Burgundy. So two houses, cadet branches of the Capetine dynasty, the Valios and Burgundy. All right, under the Spanish houses of the Roman Catholic jurisdiction. Okay? Not those who were not subject to the Roman Catholic jurisdiction, go back to the original Castilians, okay? Or Sicilians. Very important for you to understand that. The House of Valios Burgundy, or the younger House of Burgundy, was a noble French family deriving from the royal House of Valios. It is distinct from the Capetine House of Burgundy. Descendants of King Robert II of France, though both houses stem from what? The Capetine dynasty. It's very, very important for you to understand that. All right? When you go back to the houses, you have Transamora, Habsburg, Capitan, Bourbon, House of Valios, House of Valios Burgundy, House of Capet, House of Bonaparte, and House of Savoy. So this was controlled by different monarchs at particular times. So there's a time span that has to be covered in regards to Anglo-Spanish, okay, Anglo and French, as well as Spanish and French wars. All right, you just can't stop in 1492. You got to know what preceded 1492. Okay, especially when you're talking about Mary Magdalene and the coat of Mary Magdalene, as well as the relic of Mary Magdalene. Okay, as well as other parts that were considered relic, which means her finger. If everybody caught up so far, please give me a thumbs up in the chat line. If you comprehend, please give me a thumbs up in the chat line. I want to make sure that I don't lose anybody along the way, especially if you claiming to be a part of Jesus' bloodline. Okay? Because I am the reincarnation of Jesus. Because the word reincarnation means personification or incorporation. Okay? We take the abstract at it and put the concrete in it. Because this is known as the crown, the king of kings. Okay? Let's get into it. So don't forget the membership houses of the Spanish Empire, which Mary Magdalene's surname descended down from, which is Burgundy. All right. And we understand Mary Magdalene was one of those Marys because there were three Marys that were present at the resurrection of the so called Jesus, the son of Mary. Okay. And we got a skull of Mary Magdalene. We got an actual skull. Okay. Very important. So Chancellor Habsburg, Capetine dynasty, Bourbon, House of Valois, House of Valois and Burgundy, a combined house, then the House of Capet, the House of Bonaparte, and the House of Savoy. These are all houses that had to do with the mystery concerning the relic of Mary Magdalene. Okay, we understand that under the Spanish Empire, they conquered the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas, but they never conquer who? The Olmecs, because the Olmecs were the original Spanish. Because we know when we're dealing with the serpent, flying serpent, and the Egyptian, they were known as Waset, which is the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus. All right, which is nothing more than what we call um, uh, uh, biology and chemistry. Okay, I ain't got time to go on that today. I got to stay on the topic. All right, so we're talking about the Spanish Empire that was composed of Roman Catholics under the control of Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand II. All Roman Catholics, I might add. Okay, dealing with the conquest over here in North America, now known as New France and New Spain. All right. Before Great Britain even come into the picture, before the United States even come to the picture, all right, before any of these other alliances start to take form, we go into the original contractual agreements between as a result of wars. Because treaties are made as a result of wars. Okay? All right, let's get it. Let's go into the bloodline of Jesus. Jesus' bloodline. Talking about bloodline, we're talking about genetics, genes. Okay? That's why you found the skull, because that is a result of the biological makeup, okay? The physical makeup of ourselves, okay? The mass, okay? The muscle, the bones, the tissue, okay? But her genetics carries the gene, okay? It says Michael began Richard Lee and Henry Lincoln developed a popularized idea of a progeny descendant from Jesus and Mary Magdalene in their 1982 book, The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. Y'all better pay attention. Published as The Holy Blood and Holy Grail in the United States. Did you hear that? The Holy Blood and Holy Grail, published as the Holy Blood and Holy Grail in the United States, in which they asserted we do not think the incarnation or incorporation or personification, same word. When you want to speak in abstract, they say incarnation. When you're talking about corporations, it's incorporation, which is on the crown land, a personification. It said we do not think the incarnation truly symbolizes what it is intended to symbolize unless Jesus was married and shared children. Now we're talking about the mystical body of Christ, or what we call the body of politics. All right. Specifically, they claimed that the Sangreal or medieval lore did not represent the Sangreal or the Holy Grail, the cup drunk from at the Last Supper, but both the vessel of Mary Magdalene's womb and the Sangreal, the blood royal of Jesus, represent a lineage descended from them. And their reconstruction, this is what they say. Mary Magdalene goes to France. Her name originated in southern France. In France. After the crucifixion, carrying a child by Jesus who would originate a lineage that centuries later will unite with the Merovingian rulers of the early Frankish kingdom. Once again, Mary Magdalene goes to France after the crucifixion, carrying a child by Jesus. So now Mary Magdalene is carrying the child by Jesus. All right, I have to take this card. Everyone hold that thought. Sorry about that. Oh, that prayer must have did good. I just got a call from a brother, close brother of mine, in regards to he just got accepted to a program. He on his way to a program. He was homeless. All right. So let's give honor to the ancestors. Just got the call. He's on his way to the program. Right. I was losing sleep too. So that's a blessing. All right. The Holy Blood, and the Holy Grail published as the Holy Blood, Holy Grail in the United States, in which they let me make sure you can hear me. Yeah. Holy Grail in the United States, in which they asserted, we do not think the incarnation truly symbolizes what is intended to symbolize unless Jesus was married and shared children, meaning that he had a genealogy. Specifically, they claimed that the Saint Grail of medieval lore did not represent the Saint Grail Holy Grail. The cup drunk from the Last Supper, but both the vessel of Mary Magdalene's womb, you hear that? And Saint Grail, the blood royal of Jesus, represent a lineage descended from them. In their reconstruction, Mary Magdalene goes to France after the crucifixion, carrying a child by Jesus who would originate a lineage that centuries later would unite with the Merovingian rulers of the earliest Frankish kingdom. Y'all better pay very close attention to what I'm saying, because I'm going to go through everything that I'm reading. I just don't read to be reading. I go and investigate. Mary Magdalene goes to France after the crucifixion, carrying a child by Jesus, who would originally originate a lineage that centuries later would unite with the Merovingian ruler of the early Frankish kingdom, from from whom they traced the descent into medieval dynasties that were almost exterminated by the Albigensian crusade against the Cathars. Once again, the Albigensian crusade against the Cathars. Okay, leaving a small remnant protected by a secret society known as the Priory of Sion. Okay, known as the Priory of Sion. All right, once this took place, it transferred to the what we call the Dominican order. Okay, the Dominican order. So it says that Mary Magdalene, or the cult of Mary Magdalene, was supposed to descend from the Merovingian rulers. Now, this is not true. Okay, this is what they try to assert, Michael Ben Gantt and Richard Lay and Henry Lincoln. This is what they try to assert because they are not of the royal blood. Of course, they try to make their way into the royal blood, but because they don't know the history, then, you know what I'm saying? As I said, he who writes your books sets your timeline. So it's time to correct them. All right? Now we're talking about the Jesus bloodline associated with Mary Magdalene, going all the way back to the medieval ages, dealing with the Merovingian rulers as well as Frankish kingdoms, which were the Merovingian rulers. Also going back to a particular area that deal with Spanish and Frankish wars, okay, known as the Albigensian Crusade. All right, this is very important. Before we go into the Albigensian Crusades, this composed of wars that originated in between France and Spain versus the Anglo-French Wars and the Anglo-Spanish Wars. You didn't have the Anglo and French Wars and the Anglo-Spanish Wars until the influence of Roman Catholicism. Okay, prior to that, the Spain and France England and France were aligned. Okay, they were aligned. They were of one family, whether they were here in North America, whether they were in England, or whether they were on what they call the Iberian Peninsula. Let me paint the picture for you. Malcolm III, a Scottish king, was married to Margaret of Wessex or Margaret of Scotland. Margaret of Scotland or Margaret of Wessex was the mother of Matilda of Scotland. Matilda of Scotland was married to Henry I, the son of William the Conqueror, who invaded England. Henry I, son of William the Conqueror's son William Adam, was supposed to marry Fulk's fifth daughter, Matilda of Scotland, but he died in the White Ship known as the Anarchy, which resulted in the breakdown in the government over here. Okay, as a result of that, the daughter of Matilda of Scotland, the daughter of Margaret of Scotland, the wife of Malcolm III, the King of Scotland, they had a daughter called Empress Matilda of the Holy Roman Empire. She married Godfrey the Fifth Canavan Jew. Okay, she married Godfrey the Fifth Canavan Jew, son of Fulk, ruler of Jerusalem. Okay, the agreement was for Empress Matilda to marry Fulk the Fifth son Godfrey the Fifth Canavan Jew, son of Fulk, the ruler of Jerusalem. So this is why Mary Magdalene, or the coat of Mary Magdalene, name is originated in Burgundy in France, as well as it has some Mediterranean origin, because that is associated with what we call Jerusalem. And the French at the time of the Crusades were in Jerusalem. Okay, we must understand these historical facts. Indisputable. Let's prove it. First of all, let's get this out the way. So if she was a part of the Merovingian rulers, let's look at the Merovingian dynasty real quick, just to rule that out. Because the Capetine, all those dynasties ruled by the Spanish Empire originated from this house. All those houses that originated under the Spanish Empire originated from this house, okay? Very important. The Merovingian dynasty. Clovis I originated from the Merovingian dynasty. The Merovingian dynasty took control of the territory that was under the control of the Visigoths when they were exiled by Clovis I. Okay, very, very important, because there was a difference between the tribes living in France. Okay, living in the Iberian Peninsula. There was a difference between Roman Catholic, Frankish, Nordic, as well as those who were of the Berber tribes known as the Benedictine, Visigoth, Hispanic tribes. Okay, very important. So the Merovingian dynasty was the ruling family of the Franks from around the middle of the 5th century until Pepin destroyed in 751. Okay, very important. Let me go a little further here. The dynasty's name, medieval Latin, Merovingi or Merovingi, sons of Merovic, derived from the unattested Frankish form, akin to the attested Old English, with a final ing being the typical dramatic patronymic suffix. The name derives from the Salian king Merovic, who is at the center of many legends. Unlike the Anglo-Saxon royal genealogies, the Merovingians never claimed to descend from God, nor is there any evidence that they were regarded as sacred. So that means that if the Merovingians under King Merovic never claimed the descent of God, then that means that Mary Magdalene, as well as Mary of Clovis, as well as Mary, the mother of Jesus, were not of Frankish descent. All right, this is a fact. All right, because the Merovingian tribes exiled or defeated the Visigoths under Clovis I, and the Visigoths were those tribes controlling all of what we call the Iberian Peninsula. Okay, very important. All right. before the invasion of the Iberian Peninsula, as well as after the invasion of the Iberian Peninsula, known as the reconquest of the Spanish reconquest. All right, you must know your history, brothers and sisters. So the Merovingians never descended from God. Did you hear that? Never descended from God. And it also said they had blonde hair. One second. The Merovingians' long hair distinguished them from among Franks, who commonly cut their hair short. Contemporaries sometimes refer to them as the long-haired kings. Merovingian whose hair was could not rule, and a rival could be removed from the succession by being tonsured and sent to the monastery. The Vikings also used a distinct name stock. One of the names, Clovis, evolved into Louis and remained common among French royalty down to the 19th century. Okay, so all the people, all the kings, French and Frankish king named Louis are actually descendants from Clovis, okay, who controlled or defeated the Visigoths kings of the Iberian Peninsula. Okay? We must understand that. So since we're here, let's go here. Muslim conquest of the Iberian Peninsula. So we can cover our tracks. The Muslim conquest of the Iberian Peninsula from 711 to 720, also known as the Arab conquest of Spain, was the Umayyad conquest of the Visigoth kingdoms of Hispania. So the Visigoth kingdoms were living in Hispania in the early 8th century. The conquest resulted in the end of Christian rule and most of Iberia and established a Muslim Arab Moorish rule in that territory, which came to be known as Al-Andalus under the Umayyad dynasty. Did everyone hear that? I hope you did. I hope you did. Let's look at the belligerents. The Umayyad, which are the Moors / Arabs, versus the Visigoth kingdoms. Okay, all right, and this consists of Spanish kings, Roderick, okay, Hispania, Pelagius of Austrias. We talked about that in prior lessons, brothers and sisters. We talked about them. All right, this was a result of the Moorish conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, who are all related to the cult of Mary Magdalene on the Iberian Peninsula. Okay, before the Spanish Empire, and the Spanish Empire composed of a bunch of membership that goes from Trasmora to the House of Savoy. Okay, very, very, very important. And all those fall under the Merovingian dynasty, who never claimed to be descendants of God, like Mary Magdalene, Mary Clovis, as well as Mary, the mother of Jesus. Not from an abstract, but a concrete, because we're talking about a skull of Mary, okay? A skull of Mary Magdalene, which we'll go to in a second. Now we're going to deal with the Muslim conquest of the Maghreb. Look at the belligerents. Belligerents. This we're in North Africa. The Maghreb. We're not even on the Iberian Peninsula. We're in North Africa now, and look who can are the belligerents fighting. Because the Muslims invaded the Maghreb. They didn't originate there. They invaded the Maghreb, known as North Africa, where all these Berbers were situated at. Okay, the Benedictine Empire, Kingdom of Alvata, Kingdom of Arez, Kabil's Confederation, Kingdom of Khorasan, Kingdom of Hundas. These are various Berber tribes known as the Visigoths kingdoms. Okay? We must understand that. All right? We must understand that. All right. So with that in mind, we'll go to back to Mary Magdalene. Okay. The one supposed to be carrying the bloodline, the genetics of Jesus. And we now have a artifact known as a relic called the relic of Mary of Magdalene. Okay? The relic of Mary Magdalene. Y'all better pay attention. Okay? Y'all better pay attention. The relic of Mary Magdalene are a set of human remains that purportedly, they say purportedly because they don't know much about it, belonging to the Christian saint Mary Magdalene, one of the female followers of Jesus Christ, or the person known as Jesus Christ. The most famous relic is a blackened skull displayed in a golden reliquary at the Basilica of Saint Maxima la Sainte Baume in southern France, which has been described as one of the most precious relics in all Christendom. Do the Hebrew Israelites talk about this? Right? Do the Moors talk about this? Do they talk about this in church? Roman Catholic Church probably talk about this, but none of these modern day churches go over this information like I'm going through it. All right? Which has been described as one of the most famous precious relics in all Christendom. Christendom goes back to the time of the Crusades. Okay? One of the world's most famous sets of human remains, other relics said to have belonged to Mary Magdalene include a foot bone located at the Basilica of San Giovanni dei Fiorentini in Italy, a left hand located at the Simon Petra Monastery in Greece, a tooth displayed at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, and a rib in Bellesley Abbey Basilica uh, 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 part stuff. I don't know what that. Stay Magdalene and Bellesley, France. Okay, so these are all the relics associated with Mary Magdalene. This is very important. Okay, this is very important. Before we go to where it was found at and where it's preserved at, let's look at the different wars as a result of uh, uh, the bloodline concerning Jesus Christ, because it goes back to the Albigensian Crusades. Okay, it goes back to the Albigensian Crusades. All right, as we've seen in what we call Jesus' bloodline. Let's go back there. Jesus' bloodline. According to them, Mary Magdalene was supposed to be associated with the Merovingian rulers, which we just disqualified, which were the rulers of the Frankish kingdoms, and it said they can trace their descent into the medieval dynasties that were almost exterminated at the time of the Albigensian Crusades, which was a war of these Frankish kings against the Cathars. Okay? Yes, the Frankish kings against the French kings. And the French kings were tied to the French, Spanish, and English kings who were all of the same bloodline. This is preserved by what we call the Priory of Sion, which we're talking about now, as well as the Dominican friars, which were those who were created fraternal societies to hide the truth about the bloodline of descent of that person known as Jesus Christ. Okay? Very important. Very, very, very important. Let's see. All right. So let me look at the where I want to go first. Anglo and French Wars. Let's go there first. Real quick. Because we're concerned with Mary Magdalene, all right, claiming that they descended from the Merovingians or i.e. the Frankish kingdom, going back to that particular crusade. Okay? Going back to that particular crusade. So we're going to look at all the wars concerning the Anglo-French wars, the Anglo and Spanish Wars, and then the Spanish and Frankish Wars. Okay? Very important. All right? This is how you investigate. The Anglo-French Wars were a series of conflicts between the territories of the Kingdom of England and the successor states, i.e., the United Kingdom and the Kingdom of France, succeeded by a republic. Their conflicts spanned throughout the Middle Ages to the modern ages, brothers and sisters. Okay? The first going back to what we call the Capetine dynasty and the House of Normandy, or what we call the Norman Conquest. All right, this goes into the first 100-year wars. Okay, the first 100-year wars. Very important. Then you got the another Anglo-French wars. You can investigate that on your own time. Then you got the Anglo-French Wars that created what we call the anarchy. Okay, the anarchy was a result that originated as a result of the white ship. We talked about that a little while ago. Okay, then you got the Anglo-French Wars from 1158 to 1189, which was the Capetine dynasty in the House of Plantagenet that resulted in the Treaty of Paris of 1259. Okay, very, very important. I know my history. Okay, the Treaty of Paris of 1259. Well, we got to go back into the Treaty of Paris of 1229 to get to the root of the story. We got to go back to 1229 because this particular war that originated right at the time of the cult of Mary Magdalene, called the Albigensian Crusade. All right, the Albigensian Crusade. Let me just show you. I know we got a lot of you have a short attention span. So concerning the Merovingian rulers, the Albigensian Crusade, concerning the freakish kingdom that are claimed to be related to Mary Magdalene, and Mary Magdalene is a surname that originated in France, and we understand that some of her relics are situated in France, okay, by some people who claim to have these things in their possession. Okay, so who are these people? Got these relics of Mary Magdalene in their possession and they're preserved to this very day. Okay? This is very important for you all to understand. All right? So we just did the Anglo and French wars. Once again, the Anglo and French wars. If we look at the Anglo-French wars, we're going to make our way up to the 100-Year Wars, okay? Not the first 100-Year War, but the 100-Year Wars. All right? Which is right here. Right here. The 100-Year Wars called the Edwardian Wars, the Caroline Wars, the Lancastrian Wars, and these were wars against the House of Balios. Once again, Philip the Fourth, Charles, I don't want to get their names confused, but the wars and the Caroline Wars and the Lancastrian Wars were wars against the cadet branch of the Capetine dynasty, which is called the House of Balios. And the House of Balios and the House of Burgundy was connected. So this is a 100-Year War in the 13th, 37 to 1453. They were succeeded by the War of the Roses, okay? Then they were succeeded by what we call the Second 100-Year Wars. So the Second 100-Year Wars were preceded by the War of the Roses. The War of the Roses were preceded by this 100-Year War in 1337 to 1453, and they were preceded by the Anglo-French War of 1109, okay, between the Capetine dynasty and the House of Normandy, okay? Very important we understand that. The anarchy concerns the House of Plantagenet started by Godfrey the Fifth Calaman Jew. So if you don't know these houses, you're pretty much out of luck in regards to connecting the dots. All right, very important. Now we have the Anglo-French Wars. All right, which started from 1109 to 18 to the 19th century. Okay, and the time areas that we're concerned about is 1109 to 1113, 1123 to 1135. 1158 to 1189, as well as make our way all the way up to what we call 1337 to 1453, all right, which was called the Hundred Year Wars, okay? Another 100 Year Wars, the Edwardian Wars, the Caroline War, and the Lancaster Wars. What originated after that is what we call the Castilian Civil War. Hold that thought. Sorry about that. Okay. So the 100 Year Wars then turned to what we call the Castilian Civil Wars. Okay. They extended from what we call the England and France War, resulted in the war that now involved Spain, okay, which we're going to talk about today, okay? It's called the Castilian Civil War, all right? And that all goes back to that Jesus bloodline, going back to the Albigensian Crusade. It all goes right back to that Albigensian Crusade, all right? Very important. So we got the Anglo-French War. Let's go to the Anglo-Spanish War. All right. Anglo and Spanish Wars. We just did the Anglo and French Wars going back to 1109. Okay. All the way up to 1337. Now we're dealing with the Anglo and Spanish Wars that take you up to the time of the 100 Year Wars. Okay. And the 100 Year Wars were actually part of the Castilian Civil War that involved Spain. Okay. Very important. So we know the 100 Year War all involved the what? The Edwardians War, the Caroline Wars, and what? The Lancaster Wars. All right. If everyone is following me so far, give me a thumbs up in the chat line. Everyone, give me a thumbs up in the chat line, please. Everyone, give me a thumbs up in the chat line. Okay. All right, so the Anglo-French Wars go back to 1109 up to the time period of 1337. Anything after that is irrelevant because we're going to the origin of the story. Now we deal with the Anglo-Spanish Wars, including the Wars of Breton Succession, all right, the Castilian Wars, and the War of the Two Peters, and the 1338-1385 Portuguese interregnum. So this is where we're going to wind up at. The Hundred Year Wars and the Castilian Wars is going to take us to what we call the Franco and Spanish Wars. Once again, the Franco and Spanish Wars. So the Anglo-French Wars, Anglo-Spanish Wars. Now we're going to the Franco and Spanish Wars because the Hundred Year War in the 1337 involved who? Edward III, King of England. He was married to Eleanor of Castile. All right? Eleanor of Castile was the daughter of Bernadette of Castile. All right? Paternal grandmother Eleanor of England, which we discussed today. So the Hundred Year War goes to 1337 to 1453, which also was continued through the Castilian Civil War. Okay? Let's go to the Franco-Spanish Wars because we're going to go back to the bloodline of Jesus that was supposed to be wiped out at the Albigensian Crusade. Yes, the bloodline of Jesus was wiped out at the Albigensian Crusade. All right, and they were warned with Frankish kings, i.e., the Merovingian, which never claimed to be descendants of gods like the Anglo-Saxons. Okay, we must understand that. So we're talking about the Franco and Spanish Wars. We see the Anglo and Spanish and the Anglo-French Wars precede the Albigensian Crusade because they don't start till 1209. Okay, these crusades don't start till 1209 to 1229. Before that, you got the War of the Hundred Year Wars. Okay, dealing with the Anglo-French War as well as the Anglo-French War that existed in 1109. Okay, that consistent with the English that have a government ancestry going back prior to that. Okay, we must understand that. All right, and the Albigensian Crusades. All right, involving who? Frankish Spanish War. All right, and this all goes back to who? The bloodline of who? Jesus. Right here. All right, concerning the bloodline of Jesus. All right, here we go. Franco and Spanish War. That's where we at now, right? Franco and Spanish Wars. So what's up with that Albigensian Crusades, which was a crusade that resulted in the extinction of the bloodline of Jesus? What's up with this crusade? And who are involved in this crusade? This is what we need to understand. Okay? Because they are in possession of these relics. All right? This family. Let's see. Albigensian Crusade. Let's talk about that real quick. Take this to the Hebrew Israelites and see what they say. The Albigensian Crusade, also known as the Cathar Crusade, was a military ideological campaign initiated by Pope Innocent III to eliminate Catharism in Languedoc, what is now in what we call southern France. Crusade was prosecuted primarily by the French crown and promptly took on a political aspect. It resulted in a significant reduction of practicing Cathars and realignment of the county of Tours with the French crown. The distinct region culture of Languedoc was also diminished. This is very important because we understand that the cult of Mary Magdalene, as well as that being responsible for the bloodline of Jesus, has associated with the Albigensian Crusade, was clearly wiped out as a result of this crusade, were preserved based upon the relics that we're finding, all right, by individuals who took part in this crusade. Okay? Very, very, very important. So let's go to the belligerents. Notwithstanding what it is that the Albigensian or the Cathars practice, we want to see who are the parties or the belligerents in this matter. Okay? Because there's two parties: the Crusaders, the Episcopal Inquisition, which we had three: the Episcopal Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition, and the Medieval Inquisition. All right. When we get into the Dominican order was the order that originated along with another order called the Franciscan order as a result of the offshoot of what we call the Benedictine order. Okay. Yes, sir. The Benedictine order. Okay. Started by Saint Benedict of Nursia. All right. So the belligerents are the Episcopal Inquisition, the Dominican order, and the Kingdom of France. Okay. First is the Cathars, County of Tours, Viscounty of Preserves, Crown of Aragon, blase blase. But the commanders and leaders is what I'm most concerned with. All right. Simon de Montfort was one of the rebel barons of John. All right. Arnaud Almerac, Armory the Sixth of Montfort, Philip II of France, and Louis the Eighth of France. Very important. Raymond Roger, Trincaval, Raymond VI of Tosley, Raymond VII of Tosley, and Roger Bernard II of Fort, and Peter II of Aragon. The individuals in this particular, as commanders, are very important in regards to this crusade, which concerns the bloodline of Jesus going back to who? Mary of Magdalene. Okay? Mary of Magdalene, because according to the uh, what we call the bloodline of Jesus, it was preserved by who? The Dominican order. All right? The Dominican order. Let's go hit that real quick again before I move on. Got a lot to cover. Down to the progeny. I think I see it in there. Let me find it. Give me 1 second. Bear with me, brothers and sisters. All right, let's see. Right, right here. Let's see. This is the holy blood, and the holy grail. All right, going back there. Going right back there. Holy blood of the Holy Grail, or the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail of the United States. Okay? Let's go to the background of the story. In parts of, not the background, the content. Pretty much what we just talked about. All right? The author reinterpreted that those are secrets in the light of their own biblical obsession, contrary to the sorry. Contrary to Planter's initial Franco-Israelist claim that the Merovingians were only descendants of the tribe of Benjamin. Let me go one up. The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail beget Legge and Lincoln posit the existence of a secret society known as the Privy of Sion, which is supposed to have a long history starting in 1099. It had illustrious grandmasters, including Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton. According to the author's claim, the Privy of Sion is devoted to restoring the Merovingian dynasty, which ruled Frankish from 457 to 751 on the throne of the Franks. This is mean the English throne. This is what the 100-Year War was all about. The English throne, the French throne. Okay, the English throne was already decided. This was about the French throne. Okay, so the Merovingian dynasty, which ruled France from 457 to 751 on the thrones of France and the rest of Europe. They're probably also said to have created the Knights of Templar as its military arm and financial branch. They also reinterpreted the dossier secrets in light of their own biblical obsessions. Contrary to the planters' initial Franco-Israelist claim that the Merovingians were only descendants from the tribe of Benjamin, they asserted that the Privy of Sion protected Merovingian dynasts because they are the lineal descendants of the historical Jesus and has alleged wife Mary Magdalene traced back to King David. According to them, the legend of the Holy Grail is simultaneously the womb of Saint Mary Magdalene and the sacred royal bloodline she gave birth to, and the church tried to kill off all remnants of this bloodline and their supposition guardians. The Cathars and the Templars, in order for popes to hold the episcopal throne through the apostolic succession, we're talking about episcopal inquisition, without fear of ever being usurped by the anti-pope from the hereditary succession of Mary Magdalene. The author therefore concluded that the modern goals of the Privy of Sion are, you can read that on your own. So it just shows you that the Apostolic Crusade was basically in regards to the cult of Mary Magdalene and the association who the cult originated with. Okay, that's very important to understand that, because without this knowledge, we're lost in the sauce. This is why the clarity had to be made and given to you by the one who truly understands this. Okay, by the one who truly understands this. Let's go right back here. Jesus' bloodline. Let's go right back there. I'm repetitive. I'm sorry. Back to the progeny. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Miss anything. Okay. All right. I covered that. Let's move forward. All right. So the relic of Mary Magdalene, right? The relic of Mary Magdalene was a skull, or a blackened skull, found in southern France. Okay. This is very, very important because we're dealing with key aspects of genetic tie. Okay. So if they're dealing with a skull found in France, are in the Basilica of Saint Maxima la Saint Baume in southern France. Who built this particular basilica? Okay, who built it? So let's go to Saint Maxima la Sainte Baume. Let's see. Let's see. Saint Maxima la Sainte Baume. History. All right. History, brothers and sisters. In the 12th century, Berengar Ramon I, Count of Provence, established Saint Maximum as a town uniquely under his care. In 1246, following the death of Raymond IV Berenger, Provence passed through his younger daughter to Charles d'Anjou, brother of Louis of France and sometime king of Sicily. The Tingis Anjou presence of St. Maximus was fiercely contested by signatures of monks, among other local leaders. So we're talking about St. Maxima of St. Baume, which is a basilica, okay? A basilica that was under the watch of Raymond, the particular individual that I just mentioned, particularly Charles d'Anjou and Louis IX of France, okay? This is very important to understand, all right? Because we understand the fleur de lis is symbolic of the lily, okay? Or the Virgin Mary. That's what the fleur de lis is associated with, all right? All right, very important. The cultus of Mary Magdalene. Now we're going to the cult. It's getting very interesting. The little town was transformed by a well-published discovery on the 12th of December in 1279 in the crypt of St. Maximum of a sarcophagus that was proclaimed to be the tomb of Mary Magdalene, signaled by miracles and by the ensuing pilgrimage drawing coast of Mary Magdalene in St. Maximum that was assiduously cultivated by Charles of Anjou, King of Nepal. He founded the massive Gothic Basilica of St. Mary Magdalene in 1295 with the blessing of Boniface VIII, who placed it under the new teachings of the order of Dominicans, all right, which is Dominican order, okay, the Dominican order of friars. This is very important to understand in regards to the cult of Mary Magdalene, the bloodline of Mary Magdalene related to Jesus, because of the basilica that the relic is sitting in is called Saint Maximus le Saint Baume, okay? And it was under the construction of Charles II Amju, of King of Nepal. Who are these individuals? Do anyone know who these individuals are? Any. They're our ancestors, brothers and sisters. How I know that? They're related to the Plantagenet kings. Yes, the Plantagenet kings. Let's prove it. So Mary Magdalene, the skull of Mary Magdalene, as well as the other parts that are sitting around the world, is now sitting in Maximus La Saint Baume, all right? And it was essentially cultivated. You know what it means to cultivate, right? By Charles of Anjou of Nepal. Let's look at that real quick. Who is Charles of Anjou of Nepal? But this is the royal family. Who was her mother? Who was her father? Charles of Nepal and Beaches of Provence. This is very, very, very important. All right. Charles of Nepal usurped Jerusalem. Charles of Nepal usurped Jerusalem. He was the son of Charles the First of Anjou. All right, who was subject to the kings of England. How we know it? It was just go back to the Basilica, just to prove it. So it says in 12th century, Berengar Raymond, Count of Provence, established St. Maxima as a town uniquely under his care. In 1246, following the death of Raymond the Fourth of Berengar, Provence passed through his younger daughter to Charles d'Anjou, brother of Louis of France, and sometime king of Sicily. Now you're talking about the kings of Sicily. Okay? Now you're talking about the kings of Sicily or Sicilian kings. All right? Charles d'Anjou and Louis the Ninth of France, which are brothers. All right? Which are brothers. All right? Charles of Nepal was the son of Charles d'Anjou. Let's see. Charles d'Anjou or Charles the First. Charles the First of Anjou are related to Mary Magdalene. Father was Louis the Ninth, Eighth of France, and the mother was Blanche of Castile. Okay? Louis the Eighth of France, mother was Blanche of Castile. That's a very important person, Blanche of Castile. Let's see why. Then we have Louis the Ninth. His mother was who? Blanche of Castile. Once again, Blanche of Castile. Very, very important. Charles the First and Louis the Ninth, mother is Blanche of Castile, whose father is Louis the Eighth of France. Okay? Very important to understand this bloodline. Why? Because we're going back to the not just the territory work, which was named after Charles of Anjou and Louis the Ninth, but as well as the basilica that was built by Charles the First son, Charles of Nepal, which is called Charles of Anjou, who is his mother. Beaches of province and Charles of Nepal. This is very, very important to understand this connection. Why is this very important to understand this connection? By understanding who is um uh what's her name? What's his name? Charles the First mother. Let me see. Where was I at? Let's see. All right. Charles of Nepal. Coaches of the coat of Mary Magdalene, which is who Mary Magdalene. We already talked about that. All right. We know that the basilica was built by Charles II of Anjou, King of Nepal, and we understand that the territorial was under control of Charles the First, Charles the Second's father, Charles d'Anjou. All right, and Louis the Ninth, whose mother was beat. What's her name? Blanche of Castile. Let's look at Blanche of Castile because this is where the plot thickens. This is where the plot thickens. Blanche of Castile. Let's see. This is why they're trying to say Mary Magdalene descended down from the Merovingians, all right, as a result of the Frankish line, because we see that Charles of Nepal, Charles of d'Anjou, as well as Louis the Ninth, were all related to French and Spanish, okay? But we see Blanche of Castile was the mother of the territory where that basilica was built. Okay, Blanche of Castile. Now, who is Blanche of Castile? She was the Queen of France, Queen Regent of France, and Queen Consort of England. Why is that? Who is her mother? Who was her mother, brothers and sisters? Eleanor of England. Her father was Alfonso VIII of Castile, king of the Kingdom of Castile, before they were in the influence of Roman Catholics under the Spanish Empire from the House of Trastamara. all right, all the way up to the House of Savoy. Okay, the mother of Blanche of Castile, the mother of uh, uh, Charles II and Charles I, as well as Louis the Ninth, all right, where the so-called history in regards to Mary Magdalene is connected to, but it's not connected to the Merovingian dynasty, which gave birth to the Capetine dynasty, which gave birth to the Capet dynasty, which gave birth to the Velios dynasty, which gave birth to the Velios Burgundy dynasty, which gave birth to the Savoy and all the other Frankish dynasties. Why? Because we understand that prior to that, uh, the Roman Catholic influence by the Spanish conquest of what we call Isabella of Castile, all right, because Isabella Castile was married to Ferdinand III, and that goes into what we call the Dutch and Habsburg alliance. Once again, the Dutch and Habsburg alliance, and that unites those houses under the Spanish Empire that's separate from what we call the Kingdom of Castile. Okay, so once again, Blanche of Castile, mother was Eleanor of England. Father was Alfonso VIII of Castile. All right, very, very important. So Eleanor was married twice. She's married to Alfonso VIII, and then she married to what? Henry II, son of Godfrey, the fifth kind of man Jew, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem. Let's see it. Her mother was Eleanor of England. Eleanor of England, Queen of Castile, my brothers and sisters. All right. Eleanor of England was Queen of Castile and Toledo as the wife of Alfonso VII, and the eighth of Castile. She was the sixth child of the second daughter of Henry II of England and Eleanor of Aquitaine. Okay, so we got Spanish and French genealogy and the English bloodline. She served as a regent Castile during the minority of her son Henry I for the 26 days between the death of her spouse and her own death in 1214. Her great granddaughter in namesake was Eleanor of Castile, who was married to who? Henry III's son, Edward I, the founder of what we call the House of the House of. This is getting to the what we call the War of the Roses. Okay, I mean, pardon myself. The the Yorks and the Lancasters, which were cadet branches of the Plantagenet crown. Okay, because Henry II was the father of John, Henry III, and Richard I, or Richard Lionheart. Okay, so we see that what's her name? Blanche of Castile, mother was Eleanor of England, who was the wife of Henry II, who was the uh, son of Godfrey the fifth kind of man Jew, son of Folk, the ruler of Jerusalem. Okay, brothers and sisters. If everybody is up to speed with me, give me a thumbs up in the chat line before I go on. All right? Before I go on. Because we all talking about the connection of the bloodline of Mary Magdalene and Jesus Christ. Do everyone comprehend? Please give me a thumbs up in the chat line. Come on now. Come on, somebody. So we understand that the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of Castile are united as a result of the match between Alfonso the Eighth of Henry II and Eleanor of England. Once again, Henry II, the son of Godfrey, married the late wife of Alfonso the Eighth of Castile. Okay, with birth the Plantagenet crown. So we are all family because they are connected to the story in regards to the coat of Mary Magdalene. Okay? Now we need to make distinction between those who are connected to the coat and those who are not connected to the coat. All right? Very important. Those who are connected to the coat and those who are not connected to the coat. We must make this distinction. Okay? Going back to the article. The cult of Mary Magdalene came relatively late to the northern Iberia, having been dispersed to the rest of the continent of Europe in the early Middle Ages. The earliest evidence for the cult could come from the kingdom of Leon, Castile, and Galicia in the second half of the 11th century during the reign, everyone say it, Alfonso VI in 1067. So Mary Magdalene cult, as well as the relics of Mary Magdalene associated with her cult, is made its way all the way up to the damn 11th century. In the Middle Ages, my brothers and sisters, okay, where we have a skull, all right? We have a skull. There's no disputing this, all right? Now, why is this important? Let's go to the list of Sicilian royal consorts. Let's go here. Because Sicilian is Castilian. List of Sicilian royal consorts. The one we need to focus with is right here. Alfonso VI of Castile. Alfonso VI of Castile. This is the one they were speaking about in regards to the first evidence going back to the coat of Mary Magdalene. Alfonso VI of Castile. Okay? We must make that connection. Alfonso VI of Castile. Now, why is this important? His successor for the King of Leon was Sancho II. His predecessor was Ferdinand I. All right? King of Galicia and Portugal, Sancho II. Same person. Sancho II. Same person. Sancho II. Same person. Okay? So we see that these kings or Sicilian kings or Castilian kings are all related to Eleanor of England through Blanche of Castile, the daughter of Eleanor of Castile, the wife of Henry II. Okay? Eleanor of Castile, whose great granddaughter Eleanor of Castile married Edward I of the Plantagenet crown. Okay? And they are a part of the Franco and Spanish alliance going all the way back to that conflict known as the Albigensian Crusade. Okay? Very important for you to understand that. And the distinction between those, because remember, we see the English, French, and Spanish houses are aligned. Because we talked about Anglo and French wars, Anglo-Spanish wars, and Franco and Spanish wars. We talked about all three of them. the Anglo and French War, the Anglo Spanish War, and the Spanish and Frankish War. We know that prior to the influence of Roman Catholic on the English, Spanish, and French, we were all unified because the Christianity that were influenced upon the Anglo-Saxon goes back to Pope Gregory I when we were converted to Christianity, all going to the origin of the Benedictine Abbey, which we'll discuss in a second. Okay? Very, very important. All right? We understand that we have what they call the Spanish conquest was under what we call uh, Queen Isabella and Ferdinand II. This involves the Dutch and Spanish alliance versus the Dutch and UK alliance. Once again, because the Dutch and UK alliance is UK and Netherlands alliance. We know that the United States and UK alliance goes back to 1776, but the French parts of the Dutch had an original alliance that they go back to called the Habsburg and Netherlands alliance, which we need to discuss as well. Okay, we definitely need to discuss that. Where are we at? Let's see. Spanish Empire. We already went through this. On you again. The Spanish Empire membership is from Trajamar, Habsburg, Capetine, Bourbon, House of Valios, House of Capet, House of Bonaparte, and House of Savoy. This is very, very important dealing with the Spanish Empire, especially relative to the Spanish and Franco wars. All right? Not the Anglo Spanish wars, not the Anglo French wars, but the Frankish and Spanish wars concerning the Spanish Empire and the kingdom of, in what we call the kingdom of Castile. Because we see that um, uh, Alfonso, what was the name? Alfonso the Sixth was succeeded by Sancho the Second. Alfonso the Sixth was succeeded by Sancho the Second. Okay, Sancho the Second was the last king of the kingdom of Castile. Okay, the first king was Ferdinand III, whose paternal grandmother was Eleanor of Castile, the mother of Blanche of Castile, okay? The mother of Charles d'Anjou I, as well as Louis IX, okay? We must understand the bloodline. So we see the kingdom of Castile, Ferdinand III, and Sancho II, all right? Let's just see if I'm correct. Kingdom of Castile from 1066 to 1833. All right. Kings Sancho II and Ferdinand III. I'm a bad man, brothers and sisters. I am a bad man. All right. So the Sancho II and Ferdinand III of the Kingdom of Castile were aligned with the Kingdom of England because Blanche of Castile, mother was Eleanor of Castile, and Ferdinand III's maternal grandmother was Eleanor of England, Queen of Castile. All right, and her granddaughter married Eleanor of Castile. All right, who all related to the Visigoths. Okay, same people. Same people. All right. Let's move a little further. Let's move a little further into this madness, my brothers and sisters. So the relic of Mary Magdalene is situated in what we call, where is that at again? Saint Maximus the Saint Baume Basilica. Okay, we're talking about the relic of Mary Magdalene, and it's situated in France. Okay, and it's preserved by French kings. Okay, who are descendants of or related to English kings. This is very important, and we made a distinction between the English and Spanish connection, uh, or the English and Spanish um, family line versus those who descended from Spanish and English but have adopted the Roman Catholic history. Because when you're dealing with the Kingdom of Castile, you go to Sancho II and Ferdinand III. But when you go to the Spanish Empire, you go to who? Isabella of Castile and who? King Ferdinand II. One second. Spanish Empire. And the Spanish Empire goes back to Chansamore, Habsburg, Capitan, Dynasty, etc., which we already talked about, so I can't refresh that. So let's go back to the Franco. Let's go back to the Franco and Spanish line since we talk about the Spanish Empire. It only makes sense, right? Spanish and Franco Empire, and it began with the Albigensian Crusade. But we know Anglo and French got a previous history prior to 1209. Okay, very important. We also understand that prior to the Hundred Year War, all right, we understand that the Castilian War resulted from that, all right. But that's the Hundred Year War in the third. I ain't talking about the first one, 1109. We're talking about the one in 1337. Shortly after that, you had the Castilian War of 1351 to 1369. This is very important. Let's visit this real quick. All right. The Castilian War, because this war involved the Kingdom of England when they were warring with France. Now involves Spain. Okay? Now involves Spain. Let's see. The Castilian Civil War was a war of succession over the crown of Castile. Okay? That lasted from 1351 to 1369. The conflict started with the death of Alfonso the Ninth, I mean 11th of Castile in March 1350. It became part of a larger conflict then already raging between the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of France called the what? The Hundred Year War in 13 what? 37. Okay? 1337. It was fought primarily in Castile and its coastal waters between the local and allied forces of the reign of King Peter and his illegitimate brother Henry of Transamora over the right of the crown. Once again, Peter of Transamora over the right of the crown. This goes into what we call the Habsburg and Netherlands alliance, which I ain't got no other choice but to pull that up. Habsburg, Netherlands, because we know Habsburg as well as Transamara is what? A part of the Spanish Empire. It's not a part of the Kingdom of Castile, but it's a part of the Spanish Empire. Habsburg, Netherlands. Okay? Let's go to the history right here. Okay. History of the Habsburg Netherlands. Upon the death of Mary of Burgundy, remember? Oh boy, did you catch that? Did y'all catch that? Mary Magdalene, name originated where at? In Burgundy. Let's look at it. Now we know we're talking about another Mary of Burgundy, but we can associate the name Burgundy because the last name Magdalene, comes from Burgundy, was in France. All right. Upon the death of Mary of Burgundy in 1482, her substantial possessions, including Burgundian Netherlands, okay, passed to her son Philip the Handsome, and Philip the Handsome is from the house of what? Trajamora. Let's make sure. I think that was the case. Was it this? 1 second. All right, here we go. Upon the death of Mary of Burgundy in 1482, her substantial possessions, including Burgundian Netherlands, all right, and that's Dutch, all right, passed to her son Philip the Handsome, who is a Roman Catholic, all right, Roman Catholic of Castile, okay, King of Castile. And we know Habsburg and Trajamora originated from from the Spanish Empire, not the Kingdom of the Castile, but the Spanish Empire in 1492, and that was under who? Queen Isabella and Ferdinand II of Aragon, which we're talking about right now. So upon the death of Mary of Burgundy, her substantial possessions, including Burgundian Netherlands, passed to her son Philip the Handsome, who married Joanne de Castile, daughter of Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon, through his father Maximilian of the Roman Empire. Did you hear that? So Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand were the ones responsible for the Spanish conquest, all right, as well as the Spanish succession, okay, as well as the marriage between um, Philip the Handsome, okay, for Burgundy and Netherlands. And we know the Spanish Empire goes from Trajamora, all right, Trajamora all the way back to the House of Savoy. All originated from the Merovingian dynasty, who never claimed to be what? Descendants of God. Okay? Now, this is very important, all right, that we make this connection to Isabella of Castile and King Ferdinand III. Why? Because when we go right back here to the Spanish Empire, make the connection. The membership of the Spanish Empire is Trajamora, Habsburg, which we are just talking about. Let's look at Trajamora real quick. House of Trajamora. This is very important. Right. House of Trajamora. They were an illegitimate cadet line of the House of Burgundy who acceded to the power in Castile in 1369 as a result of the victory of Henry of Trajamora over his half-brother Peter of Castile in 1351 and 1369, Castilian Civil War, in which the nobility, to the lesser extent the clergy, had played a decisive role in favor of the former. So this involves the Franco and Spanish Wars, which not only included the Albigensian Crusade, but also as well as the Castilian Civil War. Okay, the Castilian Civil War with the House of Trajamora, which was all under control of the Spanish Queen Isabella of Castile and the Spanish King, Roman Catholic, I might add, Ferdinand II of Aragon. Okay, what is the Castilian Civil War? Let's look at that because that was a part of what we call the Spanish and Franco War. The Castilian Civil War was the successor over the Crown of Castile that lasted from 1351 to 1369. The conflict started over the death of Alfonso XI of Castile in March of 1350. Okay? It became part of the largest conflict in raging between the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of France. the 100-Year War, it was fought primarily in Castile and its coastal waters between the local allied forces of reigning King Peter of Castile and his illegitimate brother Henry Charles Zamora. Now, the House of Charles Zamora was under the Spanish Empire under control of Queen Isabella of Castile and King Ferdinand II of Aragon versus the Castilian kings Peter of Aragon and Edward the Black Prince, the sons of who? Edward III. Okay, I'm not making this up. Let's look at it. Belligerents. House of Charles Marra, the Frankish kings in the Kingdom of France and the Crown of Aragon versus Peter of Castile, Kingdom of England, Kingdom of Norway, Kingdom of Majorca, the Emperor of Grenada, Duchess of Aquitaine, commanding leaders Peter of Castile, who was married to Edward III's daughter of Joan of England. Joan of England. You hear that? We must understand. This is proven. Peter of Castile. He was to be married to his contemporary Joan of England, the favorite daughter of Edward III, the son of Edward II, the son of Edward I, the son of Henry III, the son of Henry II, the son of Godfrey V, Count of Jew, son of Fulk, ruler of Jerusalem. He married the favorite daughter of Edward I. Okay? Now, it's mighty strange if you look at the Supreme Court case, United States versus One Kim Art, in regards to citizenship for those who emancipated under the 14th Amendment as a result of their, emancipated by the 13th Amendment and their citizenship in lieu of the English common law, in lieu of the 14th Amendment. If you look at that case, it clearly shows you that the English heirs of Edward III have the right to inherit land from the dead ancestors who are no longer living at the time of the passage of the Statute of Edward III, which was in 1343 and 1350. These were at the time of the 100-Year War and the Castilian Civil War, which was also the time of what we call the Black Plague. The Black Plague, my brother, right there. It's right there. All right. So Peter of Castile married Joanne of England, the daughter of Edward III of England, all right, as well as Edward III's son, Edward the Black Prince. Okay? If everyone agrees with what I'm saying, please give me a thumbs up in the chat line that you like the content. All right? That you like the content. Come on, somebody, show me some love. Show me some love. Thank you, Brother Law. So we know Charles D'Anjou and Charles II of Nepal were sons of Blanche of Castile, who was the daughter of Eleanor of Castile, and Eleanor of England, the wife of Henry II, son of Godfrey V, kind of man, Jew, son of Folk, the ruler of Jerusalem. This is very, 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 very important for you to understand that as a result of where I'm going to right here. Okay? Right here. The Dominican order. Secret society. The Order of Preachers is a Catholic mendicant order of pontifical rights that was founded in France by a Castilian priest named Dominique de Guzman, a Catholic mendicant, which means he was a beggar, okay? Not like the original monasteries and abbeys that were created under the English Benedictine reform, going back to the Benedictine practices established by Saint Benedict of Nursia, okay? We must understand the difference because there is a difference between the practices. Okay? Let's look at it. Right here. Founded to preach the gospel and to oppose heresy, teaching activity of the order in its scholastic organization placed it at the forefront of the intellectual life of the Middle Ages. The order is famed for its intellectual tradition and for having produced many leading theologians and philosophers. Okay? In 2018, there was about 5,747 Dominican friars, including 4,299 priests. The order is headed by the master of the order, who, as of 2022, is Grand Gerard Timner III. Mary Magdalene and Catherine of Siena are the co-patrons of this order. Okay? Of this order. We must understand that it was founded by this what's his name? The Dominique de Guzman, okay? Founded by Dominique de Guzman, all right? Dominic sought to establish a new kind of order, one that would bring the dedication and systematic education of the older monistic orders like the Benedictine to bear on the religious problems of the burgeoning population of cities, but with more organizational flexibility than either monastic orders or secular clergy. Okay? So he tried to revamp what was already revamped through the English Benedictine reform by our ancestors. Okay? Because this was the Dominique order, which was a Caesarean branch versus which was a monastery branch of white monks versus those of the Benedictine, which was the school of black monks. Okay, very, very, very important because it was not the traditional like the old monastic orders like the Benedictine. All right, very, very important. So we're talking about the Dominican order by Dominique Guzman. He got his name by way of an abbey built by Dominique de Celios. Okay? Dominique de Celios, whose abbey goes back to that which was established under the Benedictine monastery and not those of the Dominican order or the Franciscan order. Okay? Which are all preceded by the Benedictine monastery. Okay? Let's look at it. I am the return of that Christ, brothers and sisters. I'm giving it to you right now so there can be no excuses. The monastery dates back to the Visigoths. We know the Visigoths are those Byzantine empires that consist of Berber tribes that consisted not just in the Maghreb, but as well as on the Iberian Peninsula, as well as in Britain, as well as in here in North America, because we're talking about Dominic of Silos, who was entrusted to renovate the abbey, all right, by Fernando the Great, King of Castile and Leon. Okay, very, very, very important. So, what type of abbey was built by Dominic Sales? Because it was not like the abbey of the Dominican friars or the Franciscan friars. It was very different. It was the Benedictine monastery of Saint Domingo de Celio. All right. Very important. Who was Dominic of Celio? Let's just look at him real quick. Dominic of Silos was a Spanish monk to whom the Abbey of St. Domingo de Silos, where he served as the abbot and dedicated, he is revered as a saint in the Catholic Church as well. Okay? Dominic of Silos, not Dominic de Guzman. Talking about two different Dominics, okay? Very, very important for us to understand that. All right? And his was founded off the Benedictine monastery, okay? The Benedictine monastery, which was a monastery going all the way back to our ancient Visigoth descendants, okay? Very important. All right? So with that, let's go here. Treaty of Paris of 1229, all right? Of 1229 that ended the crusade that resulted of the of the uh, extinguishing and the what we call the extinction of the line of the coat of Mary of Magdalene. Okay? Because we know that Blanche's children were in charge of those relics. Okay? Blanche of Castile was in charge, children were in charge of those relics. That's Charles the First, Charles the Second, Louis the Ninth. All right, Blanche of Castile was mother was Eleanor of Castile, the wife of Henry the Second, who was Godfrey the Fifth Caravan Jew, who followed the fifth Godfrey the Fifth Caravan Jew. And this all goes back to the Albigensian Crusades. Okay, the war with the Cathars. All right, the Treaty of Paris ended uh, the Albigensian Crusade. All right, with Raymond of Toulouse and Louis the Ninth of France, and both of them were the children of Blanche of Castile, whose mother was Eleanor of England. So there is a relationship in the family, my brothers and sisters. Okay, all part of what we call the Franco and Spanish Wars, where the Castilian Civil War took form. Okay, the Castilian Civil War. All right, and we know that those wars were 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 preceded by the Anglo-Spanish and Anglo-French and the Anglo-Dutch War. Probably not Anglo-Dutch War, but the Anglo-Spanish and the Anglo-French Wars, going back to 1199. Okay, or what was it? 1109. All right, let's continue. Let's see. Coming to my closing. All right. So let's go right here. All right. English Benedictine congregation. Matter of fact, let's not start there. Let's start with the Benedictines. Okay? Let's start here. Because all this goes back to the cult of Mary Magdalene, my brothers and sisters. The cult of Mary Magdalene that was under the authority of the kings of Spain and the kings of England and the kings of France, who were not Roman Catholic or who were not influenced by Roman Catholic teachings. Okay? The Roman Catholic teachings resulted from the conversion of the Anglo-Saxon Berbers to that Christianity that they have now. Okay? So we see the Benedictine, what's called the Order of Saint Benedict, or called the Black Monks, all right, are mainly contemplative monistic order now under the Catholic Church as a result of the modern reform for men and for women who follow the rules of Saint Benedict. Very, very, very important for you to understand that. Historical developments, brothers and sisters. Copies of the Benedict rules survived around 594 by Pope Gregory I through the Gregorian mission with Augustine of Canterbury to have all you brothers and sisters converted to the Christianity that you now practice and follow. Okay? This is what you all follow. If you're not following what I'm following, you're following that. Okay? Very important for you to understand that. All right? Let's prove it. One of the earliest reforms of the Benedictine practice was the initiated was initiated in 1980 by Romanov, who founded the Camels de Say community. The Cistercian branch off from the Benedictines in 1098. They often called themselves the White Monks. Okay, so you got two particular branches: the Cistercians and the Benedictine. Okay, the dominance of the Benedictine monastic way of life began to decline towards the end of the 12th century. I repeat, the original Benedictine monastery way of life began to decline toward the end of the 12th century, which saw a rise in the Dominican, Franciscan, and nomadic Dominican friaries or abbeys, okay, under Dominic of Guzman. Dominic of Silos had the abbey, even though it was Roman Catholic, it was influenced by Saint Benedict of Nursia, but not like the original monastery Benedictine, going back to the time when it was at its by Jesus Christ, or that Vicar Christ, or that King of Righteousness, i.e. Melchizedek, King of Righteousness, which I am the reincarnation of in this day and time. Okay? So the Benedictine is represented in all different countries, okay? All right? But in the United Kingdom, which is called now, part of that, Kingdom of Great Britain, part of that, Great Britain, part of that, Britain, part of that, England, because prior to 1603, each Britain was separate territorial. So we see here the English Benedictine congregation, they say is the oldest 19th Benedictine congregation through the influence of Wilfrid Benedict Bishop in Dunstan. Okay, we know Dunstan goes back to the English Benedictine Reform done by Alfred the Great. Okay, we had the medieval Inquisition, the Episcopal Inquisition, and the medieval Inquisition. Okay, we must understand the three. Okay, we must understand the English Reformation done in the at the time of Henry VII, was done when at the time of the War of the Roses, the time of the 100-Year War. This is why Henry VIII is married to Catherine of Aragon, who is also the daughter of who? What? Isabella of Castile. All right? You need to know the family. All right? So we see that the Benedictine Reform has an older history that we originally know of. Okay? And this goes into the English Benedictine congregation that was created from the original congregation that was created by Jesus Christ. Okay? We must understand that. Let's see in closing. The English Benedictine congregation is a congregation of autonomy, sovereign, Abadable and priory monastic communities of Catholic Benedictine monks, nuns, and lay oblates, and technically the oldest of the 19th congregations affiliates to the Benedictine Confederation. Formation the year 1216. Headquarters is in England. Influence Australia, Ireland, Peru, Sweden, UK, United States, and Zimbabwe. Okay? Very, 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 very important. Okay? Of the understanding of the English Benedictine Reformation as a result of the Roman Catholic influence going all the way back to what? The Gregorian mission by Augustine of Canterbury and Pope Gregory III. Okay? All right? This is why you had the English Benedictine Reform. All right? Which, as they just stated, it fell in decline. Okay? It fell into what we said decline. All right? Because we don't know the origin of our history. Let's go here. So they mentioned the pre-dissolution communities of England were the product of the 10th century. So before the dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VII, okay, the monasteries were standing. Members were in the monasteries learning about what it is that we're supposed to learn in regards to what our Jesus Christ instructed us to learn based upon the Regalius Concordia. Okay? All right? In regard to the Regalius Concordia. And Regalius Concordia is what y'all missing in regards to understanding the three Marys who were present at the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Okay, they were known as what they call the three Marys. Okay, let's see. English Benedictine Reform. In closing. So, the cult of Magdalene was hidden by the Priory of Sion, going all the way back to the Dominican Priory, going back to Dominique de Guzman, who got his name from Dominique de Silos, who got his understanding from the origin of the Benedictine Reform that was still influenced by Roman Catholic, going back to the the Gregorian mission by Pope Gregory I and Archdeacon of Canterbury to have all the English converted to the Roman Catholic Christianity versus the true Christianity that was established through the English Benedictine Reform. Okay, which apparently the angels was talking to the three Marys, in which Mary Magdalene was one of them, okay? And which apparently her story is confirmed by the relics preserved by the same people who are one and the same. They're family, okay? They are family. The ancient Benedictine reform or monastic reform of the English church in the late 10th century was a religious intellectual movement in the later Anglo-Saxon period. In the mid-century, almost all monasteries were staffed by secular clergy who often was married. The reformers sought to replace them with celibate contemplative monks under the rules of Saint Benedict. Saint Benedict. The movement was a continental monastic reform, so it was continental. And the leading figures were St. Dunstan, Archbishop of Canterbury, Ethelwood, Bishop of Westchester, Oswald, and Archbishop of York. Okay? In the 7th and 8th century, the Benedictine monasteries were Benedictine in nature. But in the 9th century, learning in monasticism declined severely as a result of Viking raids. Alfred the Great deplored the decline and started to reverse it. The court of Ashton means noble stone. The first king of the whole of England was a cosmopolitan and future reformer of Dunstan and Ethelwood, learned from the continental exponents of the Benedictine monasticism. Okay? The English movement became dominant under who? Jesus Christ, King Edward the Peaceful, or the King of Peace. That's why it was called Pax Britannica or Pax um, uh, 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 Pax Benedictine congregation. Pax Benedictine congregation. So it says that the ancient movement became dominant under King Edgar, who supported the expulsion of secular clergy from monasteries and cathedral chapters and their replacement by monks. The reformers had close relations with the crown, furthering his interest in depending on his support. The movement was confined to southern England and Midlands, as the crown was not strong enough in northern England to confiscate property for local elites there to establish Benedictine foundations. Okay, so you see the origin of the foundation and when it came up, when it rose to its height. That was under Jesus Christ. Okay, Jesus Christ, the King of Peace, under what they call the Regalius Concordia. In closing, the Regalius Concordia was the most important document of the English Benedictine Reform sanctioned by the Council of Winchester in 973. This is when he died. King Edward the Peaceful died. Okay? We talk about the three Marys, which Mary Magdalene was there present at the tomb. Let me just show you that real quick. Three Marys. Legend in France. Medieval legendary accounts had Mary Magdalene, Mary of Jacob, and Mary Salome mark three Marys of the tomb, or Mary Magdalene, Mary of Cleophas, and Mary Salome, with Saint Sarah, the maid of one of them, as part of a group who landed near Saintes Marias de la Mer in Provence after a voyage from the Holy Land. The group sometimes included Lazarus, who became Bishop of Action Province, Mary of Bethany, his sister, and Joseph of Arimathea. They settled in Santa Maria de la Mar, where their relics are focus of the pilgrimage of Santa Maria de la Mar. The feast of the Three Marys was celebrated mainly in France and Italy and was accepted by the Carmelite order into the liturgy in 1342. Okay, this is very important in regards to the legends in France as a result of where I'm going next. Regalis Concordia. The content of the Regalis Concordia after King Edgar died. He born in 943 and died in 9, pardon himself, he passed away in 975. All right? The content. One of the larger topics found within the manuscript is the forward to the harmony of the rule, which is meant to apply to the monks and nuns of the entire nation that was ruled under King Edgar the Peaceful. Y'all better listen. This section of the document proclaimed that every religious house in the kingdom was to follow the rules prescribed in the rest of the manuscript. Okay? So this is not talking about the Bible. We're talking about this manuscript. This included how the monastic offices was to be performed, offices including vigils, laws, and prayers, and its practice that was established in the 5th century. So Sabbath is very important for you to attend. If you're not attending, then you're in violation of the law. The prescription for the monastic office are specific. For example, it included specific liturgical songs to be performed during the mandated labor hours that were required of all of the monks. The portion of the manuscript dedicated to the rites of the Holy Week and Easter are most detailed. This is where the introduction of the Quim Curitis is introduced and is now credited to be the introduction of the theatrical ritual. The regalias also created the specific pattern in order that bells should be rung for masses and holidays to this present day. Under King Edgar the Peaceful, England experienced a period of peace and revival of monasticism. Afterward, of Winchester improved and expanded the rules of St. Benedict and wrote the Regalis Concordia as a result of Edgar's rule. Quim Conturits and closing. So this is for all you who claim to seek Jesus. All right? Quim curitis. The Latin question, quim curitis, Latin is for whom do you seek? Okay? Because there are a lot of you seeking for Jesus and not realizing that the understanding of Jesus, who Jesus was, and how his return will be manifested, you're totally blind about that. Okay? And if you don't understand these lessons, then you will not understand the lessons and you won't be able to prevail as a result of the lesson. All right? Because as I say, he who writes your books sets your timeline. Time never was when man was not. If the life of time began, the time will come when we as the people will be no more. Okay? So just like the angels told the three Marys when they visited the tomb, all right, this is what he asked them. Question by the angels. Whom do you seek in that sepulchre, O followers of Christ? Answered by Mary, Jesus of Nazareth, the crucified, or heavenly one. The angel, he is not here. He is risen, just as he has foretold. Go announce that he is risen from the sepulchre. Okay? So, as I always said, I am the reincarnation of that Christ by way of primogeniture, the first reborn of the dead, as associated with the bloodline of Jesus, which was preserved by the Plantagenet kings conflict with the Merovingian kings who never claimed to be descended like the Anglo-Saxon who were descended from God, as the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica said that they were in fact Berbers, okay? Berbers, whether you were called Gauls, Celts, or Picts on the Iberian Peninsula, or Libyans, or Berbers in Africa or Libya, or whatever else they call us in Britain. We are, in fact, the same people. Okay? So here's the concrete proof that you are directly connected to the bloodline of that individual known as Jesus Christ by way of the relics preserved by his followers, that being Mary of Magdalene. Okay? So with that, let me just go here and close. Thank you, Brother Cornier from the House of Cornier. So this in closing. He who writes your book sets your timeline. AD means Annus Dominius, in the year of our Lord. Okay? The Berber year is 951. Okay? There is no English free now year on this calendar. All right? And the Hebrew year is 5781, which is 3761, which is the beginning of the creation of the world. Okay? 3761 in the Berber year is creation of the world. But there's things that are happening already on this world, like the birth of Jesus. The birth of Jesus, right here. Chronology of Jesus. Not him, but the chronology of Jesus' bloodline. Okay? The anointed, my brothers and sisters. You are the anointed of Jesus' bloodline. Okay? You have to receive what we call that divine breath. The divine breath is what we call the what we call the VMAT2 gene. VMAT2 gene is the God gene of the ability to be able to receive and understand the information that you receive from the site, from the sun, which is light information, which is an electrical signal being turned into what they call electro stimuli, and you receiving that information by you interpreting it to what we call transduction. Okay? Transduction. So if you don't know what that is, please go back and revisit my other lessons. So with that, I think that I talked for enough. So with that, I'll close out and leave the floor open for questions if there are any. Are there any questions in regards to what it is that were spoken by the angels to the angels who have the same divine breath? Are there any questions? Are there any questions? All right. Our redemption is near, brothers and sisters, politically, physically, religiously, scientifically, it's on its way. So you want to be a part of this divine movement, this intellectual movement, this continental movement, as well as fraternal movement, confraternity, then please subscribe. If you know any ones on those platforms, Sign Letter TV, House Awakening Minds, um, um, uh, what you call the Canaanite Moors, Sign Letter TV, Sarah Soon Seti, this information needs to get out there. Please do your part. If there's any scholars out there in law, history, real estate, economics, we need you. Okay? We need your professionalism. All right? Remember, people change, but positions don't. So play your position. All right? So with that, as I see there are no questions, I guess everyone must be on the same page. If we're all on the same page, please give me a thumbs up in the chat line before I log out. If we are all on the same page, please give me a thumbs up in the chat line, as well as leave a comment in the comment box once this lesson is over. Show me how much you appreciate this lesson, each and every one of you. Yes, it does matter. Breathing helps, but as a result of the pollution, it really has nothing to do with the transition breathing. Okay, it had nothing to do with the transition praying. It had nothing to do with the transition by practice. All right, the transition comes from knowing. Okay, knowing. When you know something, you follow. How can you follow something that you don't know? You might hear something, but hearing is not following. Hearing means to adhere to follow. Not just because I'm saying it, because your ancestors said it, because I'm not the one you're going to be held responsible to. You got to be held responsible to the Father. I am in the image of my Father, okay? Who sent me to do the will of the Father, okay? Which is the Word. In the beginning was the Word was God, the Word became flesh and dwelt amongst you, okay? So I am the expression of the living Word, the Word of God. God, government ordinance department. Okay, from an ecclesiastical standpoint, for the ecclesiastical church, for the ecclesiastical body of Christ. Okay, so continue on with the breathing, all the other exercise, but none of that matters if you don't understand this information, because there's going to be a first resurrection and a second resurrection. Those who understand this information and can uh, obtain it and live up to the measure of it, you will be participate in the first resurrection, for which the second resurrection has no sting. This is called The Knowing. If you haven't watched that movie with Nicolas Cage called The Knowing, all right, Knowing deals with the revelation in regards to Ezekiel's well, okay? The prophecy of Ezekiel's well, all right? This is all I'm talking about. So please take me seriously, okay? When Jesus reincarnated and the time and era they claim to reincarnated, they didn't take him seriously, okay? They're not going to take him if he reincarnated now. But whose loss is that? It's your loss. I must be about my father business, okay? Thank you, Brother Cornier from the House of Cornier. All right. Thank you all for being here. Okay. But please go to the website, get in contact with Archbishop Belmont, do your genealogy check. Okay. Go down there and declare that they correct your name in the proper trade name, which is in the proper now. Okay. If you have not taken these steps, it's better for you to not follow this than to hear this and not follow it. It's better for you to not hear this than to hear this and not follow it. Why? Because you will be judged accordingly. Once again, you will be judged accordingly. The Black Death is just an event that occurred as a result of the wars. Okay, economic wars, trade wars. Okay, a breakdown in the civil government. That caused, know what they called it, the Black Plague, because the only ones who were plagued at the time were the black people. Okay? Were the black people, which is the name that originated from what? Castile. Negro is a word that originated from Castile. All right? According to the origin of the surname. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If the word Negro comes from Castile, then you are the true Castilians. Let's just see before I close out. You got to promote my page, brothers and sisters. If you confess me amongst men, I confess you amongst my father. Okay? All right? The word Negro, Italy and Spain. All right? Very, 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 very important. Italy and Spain. All right? Spain. Negro history, family question, coats of arms. The surname Negro was first found in what? Castile. Castile is right there. Let me share it. Let me show it. Negro. Render unto Caesar was Caesar's, and render unto gods was God's. Negro, history, family question, coats of arms. The surname Negro was first found in what? Castile, brothers and sisters. We are the Negro family called the Castilians. Okay? It's right there. Love yourself. If you love yourself and honor yourself, then you will do everything that's needed to prove yourself acceptable in the English Third Temple Church of England. All right? You better do it before I'll make you do it. And you're not gonna like it. Okay? You're not gonna like it. The only person that I'm concerned about is the children, not those who are stuck in their ways. Okay? Stagnated. And I'm gonna show you better than I can tell you. Okay? So you better do your work. All right? You better do your work. So with that, I think I held y'all long enough. Once again, go to the website, the Third Temple English Church of England. Go on there and look at the content. You know what I'm saying? Please. Yes, the house name is truly Our Dictionary. Our Dictionary. Because the word dictionary, origin of the word, root of the word dictionary is dictation. Dictate. As I said, he who writes your books sets your timeline. They gave Mary the word Magdalene, but trying to say she grew up in the Mediterranean. Well, the word Magdalene is a word that originated in France, Spain. France and Spain is in the same on the same landmass. Okay, we must make sense. We must um, eliminate the confusion by not following those who are confusing. Okay? And I'm pretty sure everything I said today was not confusing. So therefore, you cannot be confused. The only thing that you can be confused about if you don't follow what I'm saying. All right. So with that, once again, donate $ Cliff Jefferson L onto the Third Temple Church of England. Like, share, subscribe. I like to get in contact with the House of Awakening Minds, Sign Letter TV, the conscious community, any one of them. If anyone has any connection to them, please reach out to them ASAP. All right? So they could be counted amongst the righteous. Okay? They can't correct their sin if they don't know they sin. Okay? And with that, I'm going to greet you as I always greeted you. And that is in peace. All right? Thank you.